Chapter 48. J. Is this where I die? He felt the weight of the sword shaking in his hand and closed his second hand around the hilt to steady it. The thing was double his height. The two giant claws were level with his head. Its deep red ruby eyes were focused on Lou, waiting. The muscular lower body curved down beneath it. Dozens of tiny legs, a row on each side, protruded to contact the floor. The rows continued all the way to the front and then up the monster's chest, hanging in the air, writhing. Just past them, the rubber, muscular-looking skin gave way to a hardened shell carapace that encased the rest of the upper body. Jacob wanted to run. He hadn't been thinking when he dropped down into the chamber. This wasn't some oversized crab. This was a walking nightmare. Froze. Do something, he thought. It doesn't matter how big it is. I can cut it. He took a step towards it and swung the sword hard. It arced through the air towards the creature's side, but it met only air and the momentum twisted his body. The creature had seemed to glide away as the dozen legs worked together to move it out of range. It dodged. Then it turned to look at him. Its eyes focused not on Jacob, but on the sword. Jacob's hands grew clammy and the pit in his stomach deepened. Just wait for it to attack, and then cut through the claw, he thought. Its eyes narrowed and the claw twitched. Jacob's panic-enhanced burst of speed just barely got the sword in front of the claw. The sharp edge met the carapace with a loud tink, and Jacob felt the sword rip from his hands and go sailing across the chamber, clanging against the wall. His hand burned where the hilt had scraped against it. Jacob stood in front of the horror, empty-handed. He saw its crab-like face start to wriggle, saliva dripping. No. The sepia naga lay on the beach, unconscious, with its crushed legs mangled below it. A pool under her had started to form from blood exiting a wide leg wound. She's dying! Ina shouted. No, Jessica said, with icy calm. I'm not helping one of those monsters. Ina narrowed her eyes. What do you mean, monster? They killed Marcia, and they almost killed you. Why would you want to save one? It's probably better if it dies so it can't give us away. Not this one. She wasn't there. She doesn't even know us. I'm sure if it was healthy, it would already be attacking us. No, let it bleed out. Ina glared at Jessica and then got up and marched over to her. I'll do it myself. Ina reached for the first aid kit, but Jessica pulled it away from her. No, Ina, I'm not wasting the few supplies we have on an evil fish. We'll need them the next time we have to fight them off. Ina grabbed at the first aid kit again, but Jessica, who was almost 6 inches taller, held the kit high above her head so Ina couldn't reach it. Ina tried jumping to grab it, but Jessica pushed her back. Give it to me! She's dying! No. Ina's hand formed a fist and launched it forward, making contact with Jessica's face. She was taken surprise and fell back into the water with a splash. Ina was on her immediately and grabbed the first aid kit. You little bitch! Jessica scrambled up, bleeding from the nose, as Brennan got between them. Ladies, everybody calm down. She hit me. She reached up and wiped her nose and saw the blood on her hand. I'm fucking bleeding, and I'm not letting her waste our stuff. She went to push past Brennan, but he wouldn't get out of the way. Jessica, you two fighting will waste our supplies. I don't care, Brennan. Move. She tried to push him, but he was far more solid than she had thought and didn't budge. Nope. When the captain comes back, he can decide what to do. You wait. Jacob thought he saw the creature's eyes widen slightly as he jumped back to create distance to go for the sword. A claw had flashed out, just barely catching his arm with the tip, sending him staggering. He imagined a second incoming strike from behind as he tripped and dove to the ground, feeling a rush of air go by overhead. He rolled to the side, sparing a glance, and saw the creature had turned back toward Lou, but it was so big he could only see the armored back. Jacob took advantage of it being distracted, praying Lou could last, as he scrambled for the sword. It hadn't been able to cut through that thing's shell. That means I'm going to have to get in close and strike the flesh near the legs, he thought. He didn't doubt the thing was toying with them. He had seen how fast it could move when it wanted to. What would happen if I injured it? It would probably stop playing with its food. The first strike needs to be lethal. That means I need to strike where the legs come out of the torso from the front, where the claws are. Picking up the sword, he heard two loud strikes and Lou grunting. Manu appeared above in the entrance, holding his new spear. The creature was relatively close to him and hadn't appeared to notice him yet. Manu had rushed, tripping and stumbling through the dark area of the tunnel to get back. Now that he was standing in the entrance, he had frozen in fear. That thing was monstrous. He wanted to go down, but he couldn't get his legs to move. Sweat started to bead down his neck. Jacob was against the far wall and spotted him. He was bleeding from his arm, and Lou had parried a blow that caused him to slide back 2 feet from the force of it. Not good, bro. Come on, move. But his body knew that going down there was death. Manu, don't go for the shell. Hit the exposed skin. You got this, said Jacob. Something about Jacob's words had brought him back some control, but he still didn't feel the rage he normally felt when fighting. If he ever needed the extra strength, it was now. He took the spear and stabbed himself in the chest. The pain ushered in the fury, and his blood started pumping. He roared a battle cry and jumped towards the creature holding the spear in both hands. He aimed for the soft strip of flesh on the monster's chest. As the claw swatted him out of the air, it occurred to him that it was probably a bad idea to scream when trying to do a surprise attack. He went careening through the air, landing on one of the stone coffins. His heavy body shattered the lid and he fell inside. Pain erupted where his back had made contact. Another loud crack from across the room. Manu felt something poking him from below, and as he got up, he saw that the inside of the coffin was what looked like a human skeleton. There were clothes, presumably that it had been buried in, but also something else. A giant turtle shell with spike-like ridges. A red rock had been set into the center. That's a strange thing to be buried with, he thought. Manu quickly reached for it. It felt solid and heavy as he lifted it up, requiring 2 hands straining. The other side was cut away, and as Manu turned it and saw straps, he realized what it was. Shield. Ina had opened up the first aid kit and was staring at the wound. It's skinnier than the one Matt had. Her eyes frantically looked at the small packages in the kit. What would Jessica do, she thought. Need the gloves to fight the bacteria. She tore open one of the packages of gloves and put them on. Next is cleaning the wound, but it's not really dirty. I'll skip that. Where's the package she got out before she decided not to close Matt's wound? Jessica had stopped trying to push past Brennan and was watching over his shoulder. She's not even using sterile technique, Brennan. She just wasted those gloves. She sounded nasally as she pinched off her nose with one hand to stop the bleeding. The Naga's breathing had started to get shallower and her skin was starting to turn pale. There it is. She found the package. It was labeled suturing kit. She opened it up and was greeted with two of those scissors and two small knives. How is that supposed to stop bleeding? Her eyes panned between the sharp metal in the wound. I don't know what to do. Ina knew she was supposed to stay clean once the gloves were on, but didn't know what else to do. She put her hand over the wound to hold it shut. She looked at the dying Naga. Did Jessica let this happen? But she knew the answer. Jessica was a human. Humans couldn't be trusted. That could just as easily be her bleeding out on the sand. Would they let me die? Ina thought. As she leaned over the dying Naga, holding the wound closed, Ina felt frustration as moisture built on her eyes and started to drip onto her blood-smeared gloves. Lou's body slammed into the wall and crumpled to the ground. This time, he didn't get up quickly and the shelled monster closed in. Lou groggily looked up as it towered over him and the claw came in for a killing blow. A loud thud sounded as a charging turtle shell with a Samoan man behind it made contact. On your six, bro! Get up! As Manu stood in between Lou and the monster. It roared and turned around impossibly fast. Jacob had snuck up behind and stabbed the centipede-like bottom portion that protruded behind it like a tail. As the monster turned, Jacob, who was holding on to the sword stuck in the monster, was whipped around, sliding off and into Manu on the other side. Manu extended a hand to stop his momentum. The creature had a second of momentary confusion as it saw no one in front of it. Lou, get ready to block the left claw. Manu, the right. On my mark. Jacob commanded quickly as the creature turned back to them, fury in its eyes. There was no time to explain. Every instinct told Jacob to run, and even the monster seemed briefly surprised when Jacob sprang forward. Now! He shouted as he moved, lunging forward with both hands, death gripped to the hilt in a wild thrust that left him completely exposed. Time seemed to slow. The right claw twitched first, and Jacob felt a blast of air as it boomed off Manu's shield, sending the Hawaiian sliding back 5 feet. The tied sword's point was just inches from the exposed flesh on the thing's chest. The left claw rushed forward, and a loud crack as it connected with Lou's stick, sending the old history professor airborne once more. Red eyes widened in fear for the first time as the sword plunged into its chest. Jacob kept his momentum going until it was buried all the way up to the hilt, and then screamed as he pulled it, muscles tearing to the right as hard as he could. A loud screeching started coming from the monster. Jacob felt the creature start to thrash, and the smaller leg appendages on its chest pawed ineffectively at him, but the creature didn't have the range of motion to hit Jacob with its large claws. He reversed the sword's path to the left, and green blood started to pour out of its wounds. The claws started to droop, and then Manu slammed into it, knocking it over. It offered no further resistance as Manu kneeled on its neck and started repeatedly smashing it in the face with the shell shield. Jacob pulled out the sword and went to check on Lou, who was breathing shallowly and leaning on his walking stick as he rose from the floor. "You okay, Lou?"
"I think so. Maybe some broken ribs."
Lou stared darkly at the fallen monster.
"We are lucky this day."
Jacob nodded. Even with it offering no defense, it took Manu a dozen enraged strikes before the carapace around its head started to crack and then break. He kneeled on top of it, breathing hard as the wildness faded from his eyes. He looked back at Jacob.
"We're alive, bros."
"Barely," said Jacob. Lou started to look around the room.
"This must be from an ancient people of this world."
Jacob also looked around, taking in the stained glass scenes and the stone coffins. It definitely gave a religious vibe. Underneath the largest scene was a huge banner, dominated in the center by a large blue moon that radiated straight-lined blue beams to the edges of the fabric. In the center of it was a smaller red moon. "It's the planet's moons," he thought. Jacob approached it and felt the fabric. His fingers smudged a thick layer of dust, but behind it the fabric was still soft and intact. He eyed it for a moment. "We're taking this," he said. It was hanging by straps from 2 metal pegs. He stood up on his toes to take it down.
"Perhaps we shouldn't take anything from here. It could be another site important to the Naga," cautioned Lou.
"Judging by the dust, I would say the Naga haven't been here in a while, if ever," said Jacob. "And we need this."
"Yeah, bro. It was definitely a human corpse in that coffin. And whoever that was, don't need any of this anymore."
Lou paused for a moment and nodded. He walked over to the water the creature had come from and dipped a finger, then licked it.
"The water is fresh,"